Today is Wednesday, November 29th. What to know about new large shipments of humanitarian aid the U.S. military is sending to Gaza, and what the Biden administration is asking of Israel once the war restarts. Also, freezing temperatures, heavy snow, and strong winds that even brought down the national Christmas tree. We'll tell you what Americans are in store for next. Plus, a huge milestone could pave the way for greener air travel. How people are expected to use the newest AI chatbot, this one from Amazon. And what songs made up the soundtrack to 2023? The year-end charts are out. Those stories and even more news to know in today's episode. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, the truce in Gaza seems to be holding, but is just as fragile as ever. Both sides are now accusing the other of violating the agreement by getting their fighters involved in battle, even as hostages and prisoners continue to be set free. Over the first 5 days of this ceasefire, Hamas has released 81 hostages, and Israel has freed 180 Palestinians from prison, many of whom were detained but never charged with crimes. Even more from both sides are expected to be released today, and the White House says it's possible the next hostage release could include some Americans. The American CIA director is now in Qatar to push for a broader hostage deal that could even include negotiations for some men and soldiers. And Hamas leaders say they want to extend the truce. But even if an extension does happen, it won't last forever. The Israeli military says it's using this pause in fighting to strengthen its readiness for combat. And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the war will continue until Israel is no longer threatened. And that means all hostages freed and Hamas eliminated. This week, the U.S. military delivered the first round of humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. It was a 54,000-pound shipment brought in on an Air Force cargo plane, and 2 more plane loads are on their way. The Pentagon says aid includes medical supplies, food, and winter weather gear. And officials say the shipments will continue whether the ceasefire holds or not. Though the ceasefire has helped quite a bit with getting other assistance into the war zone. During the ongoing humanitarian pause, about 800 trucks worth of aid have entered Gaza. And still, the United Nations says it's just a drop in the ocean of what's needed to address a dire humanitarian crisis. 1.7 million Palestinians are said to be displaced in Gaza, and supplies are quickly being depleted. So the Biden administration says it's leaning on Israel to avoid another mass displacement of Palestinians, even after the war resumes. To be continued. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley just got a bit of a leg up on her 2024 presidential run. She landed a highly coveted endorsement from the political network founded by billionaire brothers Charles and David Koch. The Americans for Prosperity Super PAC says Haley is best positioned to beat former President Trump in a primary election and President Biden in a general election. And with that, Haley now has access to a grassroots network of millions of volunteers around the country. The group says it has a contact database with millions of voters for volunteers to call, mail, and visit in person. And it plans to spend a lot of money on TV and online advertisements, too. Those ads will start to roll out this week in all states with early primaries or caucuses, as well as several Super Tuesday states. In the past, the network has made such a difference for Republican candidates that it even rivals the financial might of the Republican National Committee. And other high-profile donors have started backing Haley, too. Though at this point, former President Trump is still considered the Republican frontrunner, and his campaign spokesperson says no amount of money will stop Trump from winning the Republican nomination. Meanwhile, President Biden is still the overwhelming favorite on the other side, but Democratic Congressman Dean Phillips is also working hard to change that. In fact, he's decided not to run for re-election in the House, meaning all of his focus will be on his presidential run. There are now just 7 weeks before the Iowa caucuses, the first voting contest of the 2024 election season. Most Americans have probably noticed this week has been cooler than most late Novembers. It's been 10 to 20 degrees below average for much of the country. And this morning is expected to be the coldest yet. In fact, forecasts are calling for parts of all 50 states to see below freezing temperatures. Yep, even parts of Florida and Hawaii. And on the East Coast, from the Carolinas to New England, records could be broken by sunrise, making it tough for people trying to dig out of mountains of snow. In western New York, snow has been falling over the last few days, and by this morning, the totals could top 2.5 feet. Some of the heaviest snow has also fallen in northern Michigan, northeast Ohio, and northwest Pennsylvania. All that said, most of the snow will be gone by next week. Temperatures are expected to start climbing tomorrow and could even be above average in the next few days. Even still, it's not clear if the national Christmas tree lighting will be able to go on as planned tomorrow. The tree just south of the White House was blown over by high winds yesterday, and it took about 5 hours to put it back up. Now the National Park Service says it's looking at the possibilities to see if tomorrow's show can actually go on. It's promised to make a decision later today. Much more news for you still coming up, but first, a quick break for our sponsor. Uncommon Goods is going to make your holiday shopping both meaningful and stress-free. Truly, Uncommon Goods has the most thoughtful, wide-ranging, and out-of-the-ordinary gifts that I've ever seen in one place. So I love to browse this site for gift ideas and then choose my favorites. From art and jewelry to kitchen, home, and bar, Uncommon Goods has such a variety of items that all somehow feel fun, unique, and personal. Not the same lackluster gifts you can find just anywhere. My most recent purchase, by the way, on Uncommon Goods was this beautiful stoneware bowl that I could honestly leave out on my counter for decoration. But it's really fun, too, because it's actually a popcorn bowl with a kernel sifter in it to ensure I don't accidentally eat those hard and annoying kernels. How great of a gift is that for anyone who loves curling up on the couch with popcorn and a show? And that's just one example of so many options. Plus, with every purchase you make, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. I love that. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/newsworthy. That's uncommongoods.com/newsworthy to get 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Okay, now back to the news. While the tree lighting near the White House is in question, another holiday staple is all set. Tens of thousands of people are expected to descend upon Midtown Manhattan tonight for the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree lighting ceremony. This year's tree is 80 feet tall and 43 feet wide. It will have more than 50,000 multicolored LED lights on 5 miles of wire wrapped around it. The star on top of the tree weighs about 900 pounds and features 70 spikes covered in 3 million crystals. Of course, if you can't make it to New York City to see the first tree lighting of the season, don't worry. It will also be broadcast on NBC and Peacock. The festivities will include musical performances by Cher, Barry Manilow, Keke Palmer, and others. And the whole thing is being hosted by Kelly Clarkson with the help of the Today Show team. There will be a lot of law enforcement on hand just in case. NYPD says there are no specific or credible threats targeting the event, but there's still some fear that lone extremists could see mass gatherings like this as an easy target. Pro-Palestinian protesters have also said they plan to flood the iconic event in support of the people in Gaza. But police officers say they'll enforce the law if the protesters interfere. The festivities start at 8 p.m. Eastern, and the tree will actually be lit a few minutes before 10 o'clock. Call it an early gift this holiday season. Across the U.S., gas prices have fallen or remained steady for 10 straight weeks. AAA says the average price for a gallon of regular gas now stands at $3.25. And that's down 63 cents as compared to September. It's normal for gas prices to cool off once the summer driving season ends because demand drops. But prices don't usually go down this much. There's another factor this year, though, which is that the main ingredient in gasoline, crude oil, has also gotten cheaper. At the start of October, American oil production hit an all-time high, and production has stayed at that level ever since. Experts say this downward trend in gas prices is expected to continue at least into the next year. It was a groundbreaking development for the commercial airline industry. A test flight using 100% sustainable fuel crossed the Atlantic for the first time. Virgin Atlantic flew a Boeing 787 with Rolls-Royce engines from London's Heathrow to New York's JFK yesterday. It was powered only by waste fats and the wastes of corn production in the U.S. Virgin says this kind of fuel emits about 70% less carbon than traditional jet fuel. Airlines are hopeful this flight made it clear that greener flying is possible. But there are some hurdles to overcome before fossil fuel can really be replaced industry-wide. Like, at least for now, there's just not enough of the environmentally friendly fuel to go around. Plus, it's more expensive, so flights could end up being more expensive. And with this flight, regulators had to give special permission. But there are some efforts underway to change that. There are plans for more sustainable fuel plants, and several airlines have promised to invest more in alternative fuels. In fact, dozens of airline, cargo, and transportation companies pledged to replace at least 10% of jet fuel with a greener option by 2030. Apple Music unveiled its year-end charts this week, showing which songs and artists were played most around the world. And this year, not surprisingly, Taylor Swift was the most listened-to artist by Apple Music subscribers. In fact, in the first 10 months of this year, she saw 65 songs reach Apple Music's daily top 100. But the song played the most was by another artist, country star Morgan Wallen. His song Last Night is the first country song to top the chart since Old Town Road 4 years ago. While those are just the most notable mentions, Apple actually released all kinds of different year-end charts, like the top fitness chart, top songwriters chart, and so on. Apple even gets into your most popular songs with its replay that also came out yesterday. Spotify's version of this, Spotify Wrapped, is expected to come out in the next few days, which, by the way, will also tell you your most listened to podcasts on the app, so be sure to tag us online if we make your list. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, a break for our sponsor. If you've ever done stretching or mobility work, then you probably already know how helpful it can be to your body. Well, the Castle Flex takes it to a whole other level. You may ask, why not just use a typical cheap rubber band or rope? Well, they not only can hurt your hand or snap your skin, but also they may not pull your toes down and back just right the way a stretch therapist does for a more effective stretch up the entire leg. I've now learned the Castle Flex is a patented device that pulls your toes into a complete dorsiflexion, allowing your entire leg to get stretched at the exact same time instead of just your calf or just your hamstring. And I can tell you from using it, I can feel the difference. It's an incredible stretch that makes my body, especially my back, feel a lot better. And I'm happy to say you can now even use funds from your HSA or FSA accounts that might be use it or lose it by the end of the year. So learn more at Castle Flex, flex with 2 X's, castleflex.com, and be sure to use our code NEWS12 for 10% off. Again, follow the link in our episode notes or use the code NEWS12, NEWS12 to get 10% off. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. Amazon is the latest company to introduce an artificial intelligence assistant meant specifically for workplaces. It's called Amazon Q. And in a lot of ways, it's like OpenAI's ChatGPT, or Google's Bard, or Microsoft's Copilot, at least their corporate versions. And because it's work-focused, Q might be used to summarize strategy documents or answer questions about company policy. For example, an employee could ask the chatbot something like, which product features are causing the most problems for our customers? Then Amazon Q would offer a response based on company data. Of course, Amazon's competitors can do this kind of stuff too. But Amazon does have an advantage in that it's already the leading provider of cloud computing. So it has plenty of business customers already who trust the company to store a lot of information on its cloud servers. And other information can be incorporated too, like companies can connect with Slack, Microsoft 365, Dropbox, Gmail, and so on. A preview version of Q is available now, and several of its features are available for free. Oh, and by the way, we're talking about the legal issues surrounding artificial intelligence in our special edition Saturday episode out this weekend. Well, thank you so much for joining us as part of your daily routine and for supporting us by sharing the show. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.